Hey everyone, this is Isaac Wells, and you're on a 3 Count podcast.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me?
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count podcast presents Now Entering the Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by season 4, our 300th and something episode, I would just hope you say with me, I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? This man has been through more surgeries than your favorite wrestler. He is also an actor, a voice actor, the very talented, the very awesome, the very inspirational one. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Give it up for Isaac Wells.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. I'm having a good time. That was a spirited intro. I love it. I like that.
Yo, no, I'm so excited having you on the show, right? Because I've been following you for about a year now, right? Year and a half. And then I was looking for new things for like my character. So Red Dog, essentially, to give you like the 50,000 foot view, right? Red Dog is the Deadpool of like the wrestling world, right? So he's very much like out in pop culture, understands everything, loves to break the fourth wall, talks about a lot of different things that are happening. But more importantly, I was trying to find another way that I could like get his like randomness out there. And I started doing these like I started looking for like thoughts of the day because I thought that would be kind of funny to just drop on like a Wednesday randomly. And I saw your stuff for Skeletor, and I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So I was like, this is the man who's inspired my Red Dog thoughts of the day, and I wanted to bring you on the show and just throw you your flowers because they're amazing every time I get to check them out. And then like, on top of that, I get to use them for myself and promote my wrestling character that way.
Yeah. A lot of people use those. I've literally had thousands of stitches for my Skeletor stuff. I'm really happy that people get to use them in their own way. I do get a little bit peeved when people re-upload them and don't give me credit, but usually like fans of mine will go into the comments and be like, "Hey, this is the original guy," so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one thing that I really kind of forgot about doing that kind of stuff too, right? Because that's one thing too. Like, yeah, we borrow stuff from like everybody. We want to make sure that we give back that kind of love. And so I started going back to like all my old TikToks of everything that like I knew I was pulled from you, and I started like tagging you back and all that stuff on my TikToks, and then like going back through my IG page, like I'm trying to put the collaborator mode on
Oh
there
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
learning that stuff.
I know. I like if people stitch or duet, that automatically goes to like me. Like it'll say original audio by by Isaac Wells, and that's fine. I don't care if people do it that way. They don't even have to tag me. And TikTok or Instagram does the work by themselves because it says the original audio is by me. That's cool. But somebody downloads the video and then re-uploads it without anything, without any uh credit, and it that's fine. I don't mind if people just push the stitch or whatever and then do their own thing. That's fine. But that's gonna come, in any way. And I've literally got millions and millions of plays for the stuff. So as long as it makes people happy, I'm fine.
It is, and that's like the best part about like the entertainment business, whether you're into acting or voice acting, pro wrestling, just even in like the professional sports world, there's a bunch of guys who are just entertainers in there as well. But it's one of those things that's like we ultimately just get happy watching other people get happy at the shit that we do.
Yeah, a lot of people really like those, and a lot of times I'll be like, hey, is this one gonna get like viewed, or is anybody gonna care about this one? And um, it's it's like one of those weird, you just have to put them out. You have to stay consistent, and like I put one out yesterday, and it's got like I got 100,000 plays today, like each, like from yesterday and today, each like in 2 days, like I get 100,000 plays every day. And I was like, dang, because it was something that I didn't think was going to be huge, but I was like, screw it, it's something cool. So You know, I get them from everywhere. So
So pull back the curtain a little bit. When did you discover that you could do Skeletor's voice? I got to know this first.
I've always been kind of doing Skeletor's voice um behind the scenes. Like I did voices for like some independent games or something that had basically that voice. Um where it's, you know, it's like a classic 1980s villain. That's where you go, you know. It's the the high pitch stuff, you know, and I think because I've explained this a number of times. I can do actual Skeletor's voice, Alan Oppenheimer, that's his name, but I did kind of like my own like caricature, like parody voice of him, because like my Skeletor is just a little bit higher pitched than the actual Skeletor, and I just did that one day on TikTok. I had like 300 followers on TikTok, and I was like, I did a couple of videos, and they weren't really getting anywhere, you know, maybe a couple hundred views. And then I was just like, screw it. And I just went and I put on, so somebody had sent me some kind of meme or something. And it literally said, you can't spell advertisements without semen between the tits. And I was like, and I had to like look at the words, and I was like, that is clever. That is really clever. So I was like, you know, hey, Skeletor could do this. You know, there's a disturbing fact Skeletor thing. So I was just like, screw it, and I got the animation, and I edit the animation myself to try to move his jaws to what I'm saying. So I have to go like sometimes frame by frame just to make sure it kind of matches up. But it's such simple animation that all his jaw does is move like this. So, you know, I don't have to really do anything. But I feel like I felt like I could do it when I just tried to parody him.
It's funny too because like I'm a massive fan of Alan as well, and like to hear like your rendition of him, right? And like you said, it's pitched up just a level. It's one of those things that like when you're developing like a character or you want to do like a parody of a character, like you have to put your own spin on it and your own rendition of voice, like your own rendition voices into it. And it's one of those things that I grew to love too about like different people who do different styles of voices because like obviously this generation Bugs Bunny is no Mel Blanc, right? It's just he's not, and it makes sense because Mel's gone. But you get all these cool renditions of like people attempting to do a voice of like Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck, or even if you know you get some people who want to do Mickey Mouse, and it's cool to see people be able to put their own spin on something like so classic and then bring a whole new life to it. And that's what I feel like you've done with Skeletor.
Well, yeah, I get that too. I got recognized a couple of times. You know, they'll be like, "Hey, aren't you the one who does that Skeletor stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I actually do." And they're like, "Oh my God, let me take a picture. You know, that's so cool. You know, like with you." And I was just like, "Man, you know, like it's kind of sometimes annoying because I'm like, I really want you to know the voice acting work that I'm really super proud of. But I mean, that's how it goes. You know, you have to give the people what they want, and I'm like, if you're gonna keep watching them, I'm gonna keep doing them because it's really easy for me. I have kind of a rhythm where it doesn't take that long, so it's very little for me to do it, and I don't mind it. And I do know what you mean about like Mel Blanc not being there, but I mean I think Eric Baza does a great job at what he does. He's like one of the best in the business. Um, and you know, I think it really started from like when I got to spend a weekend with Billy West, which is a voice actor who does like Futurama, Doug, Stimpy from Ren and Stimpy, and he does like he's like a legendary. And I didn't think I had a good impressions in certain impressions, and he was just like, he was like stopped me, and he was just like, you know, hey, your bad impression, what you think could be bad, could be an original character. And I thought that was really good because he was like, yeah, my Richard Nixon in Futurama, that's not what Nixon sounded like. That's a bad impression of him, but it's just a caricature. So I kind of took that and said, okay, I'm going to make my caricature version of Skeletor because Alan's voice is like a little bit lower. Like when he when he talks, it's like it's kind of like a low pitch like this, see, man, but then I just kind of took it up and I was just like, like, I'm gonna say disturbing facts, like he's like almost like he's screaming it, not like if it's Alan Hoppenheimer, but he's super excited about what he's saying. Yeah, so it's just like, it's not like, it's like, I'm gonna be evil and do what I want, but he gets really excited and he's just like, I have a disturbing fact to tell you, like he's like way more into it than you would really feel like.
He's just like he's essentially is like, if I can't take over the world, I'm going to take over your mind with this like random ass fact that you're just never going to get out of your head.
I mean, kind of. And it was really funny because I really love my supporters of that Skeletor for being so in love with the idea. Because when Masters of the Universe was coming out, when Kevin Smith was doing it, I was auditioning for Skeletor for that. But Mark Hamill took the role. And even though I personally, as somebody who is a creative, who is fan, didn't really care for the Skeletor that he did, because I thought it was like Joker impersonating Skeletor, because he is the Joker in Batman. And, a lot of my fans were just like, man, you should have been that Skeletor. Like, you should have been like Skeletor in a cartoon. Like, if they cast for a Skeletor, like kids cartoon, I know they have a couple on Netflix, but they really wanted me to play it. And I was like, look, I love the fact that you want me to do that. I would do it in a heartbeat, but I mean, it's their decision and everything. But as long as I'm like dubbed the internet fact Skeletor, that's fine too,
It's just a thing though. Like, listen, we all love Mark. Okay, you have had so many iconic roles. You could just give one up. Okay, like in between Luke, Joker, Wolverine. You were even the lawyer and Death Clock, right? Metalocalypse. Like he was Hobgoblin
too. Like,
he's in the Boondocks. You've done enough, man. Like, you could give up one role.
No, but I was really trying to match Skeletor's, candons and stuff like that to the original, because they're like, we want an original. We want it to, be like, like it's a new age stuff. But I was like, man, you can't replace that voice. You have to have that voice, because that's what's made Skeletor, I think, the really iconic bad guy. Because if it was just like I'm an evil bad guy, it's not going to be stand out as much as like, I'm going to take over the world. Like that's something that they didn't hear before in the 80s, and you still don't hear today. So I mean, I feel like people inspire from it, but they were really the first, and I really wanted to try to do that. Like, and there were so many memeable moments in that, Matt. Like, what's the guy's face with the big fist thing? He's like, I really like to fist him, and I'm like, what? So I was just like, even as somebody was just like, you should reply to that as Skeletor, being like, what? But no, I really like the idea, and I tried to bring as much inspiration as I could and as much like enthusiasm I could into each disturbing fact, because I do do a little bit of work to do it voice wise, to do those skits,
And it's I mean, your impressions are just amazing too, because like not only do you have like a great Skeletor, but also like Kronk, right? Like I've heard your heard your version.
Yeah, Patrick Warburton kind of voice. It's kind of deep like this, and really resonates with the people. People have kind of heard that voice before, and I kind of like it.
It's cool. So I want to get into like the part where you're talking more. I want to hit back on the fact that you were talking about, right? When you're talking about characters that you're very proud of and that you've like developed, right? And you've done voice work for. So my question really comes into, because something in the wrestling world that a lot of people have like these characters, right? There's these guys out there that are very fun loving. Like you have a dude in AEW, right? Which is one of the second largest promotion in the United States, right? His name is Orange Cassidy. He doesn't talk a lot, right? He's very like sloth moving, like, yeah, sure. But then you have another dude named Danhausen, who is a straight pull from, 1930s vampire movies. Like he holds his hands like very high and tight, right? And he's like always talking high pitch as well. He's like, yeah, Danhausen here. Like, He's got great
That's
voice, but
funny.
he's put in like a lot of work into his character. So for me, what's your thought process of going through and helping build a brand new character?
Well, I mean, like recently I did a one for a VR game called Requisition VR, and it's coming to like PSVR 2, and it's out on Steam, and I think on like Quest or whatever. Um, I think when what they wanted, they were like, "Hey, we're going with this." We kind of thought this would be the voice, and then I would basically take their idea and then say, "Okay, let me start. That's the baseline. They want that, so I'm going to give them like 3 to 6 renditions of that, like a generate. Like I'm going to generate 3 to 6 different versions of that voice. If they said they wanted it like a gruff Max Payne kind of voice, like, but he's like a truck driver thing. So I was like, okay, well, it can't sound just like Max Payne, obviously. So, but they want that. It called for that kind of dialogue in the game, and uh, so I went and I just gave him like I think in that one I gave him like 4 to 6 different versions of the voice, and they were like, yeah, that one's the closest. Um, can you do this with it? So, it's kind of like they think of something, you give them something, and that you basically have to kind of like narrow it down, like until it gets to the final one. And I did a game for also, it's on Nintendo Switch, called Death and Taxes, and I did like the merchant who sells you everything, and he has like the most dialogue in the game, and like every little thing you buy from him has like the story behind it, and he tells you this like tale that goes with whatever you buy him. And they were like, "Oh, he's a dead pirate." This takes place in the underworld, and he's a dead pirate. And I was like, "Okay." Um, so I was like, "Okay, so what kind of pirate voice do you want?" And they were like, "We want like a classic swashbuckling pirate, not like something like Jack Sparrow, which is like what everybody goes for with pirate. They go with that kind of, drunken kind of, just kind of lazy talking." And I was like, I didn't really want to do that. So I went for the like original like pirates in like 1930s beyond movies, where it's like, "Ahoy, mates, it's me, it's a pirates," and you can look it up. There's gameplay of it. There's all over YouTube and everything like that. I was the character Mortimer, um, and I basically just I kind of took my own voice because they were having a difficult time trying to tell me what they wanted. So a lot of times as an artist, you have to. It's on you to be like the one who knows where to go with some simple idea. In a lot of cases.
No, and it makes sense because, like, for me, I know, like, when I got into the wrestling business, like, a lot of people will pull from like what they know. And one of the things that I was former military in the Air Force, and so when I got out and I wanted to get into pro wrestling, uh, I started trying to build this character, and even like my trainer was like, "Hey, like, you're supposed to be very stoic and very like game plan and thoughtful and stuff like that," and that's what the military does and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, one, you weren't in the military, so I don't know how you can caveat that. But two, no, I'm nothing like that. That's like, although I'm very like together at times, like other times it's just like
Stoic
a big
military.
chaos. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, let me show you what I'm about, brother. No, I ended up going into like I tried it. I tried it for like 6 months of like I'm gonna cut my promos very like, hey, like this is the mission and this is what we're gonna accomplish and this is the command center and you don't have to look around, blah 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 blah. And I just felt forced. I was like, I'm not really digging it. But some people were. And so about there was like one match I decided I was like, let me just kind of like have some fun with this match because this is a friend of mine that I've been wanting to work for a long time. And I was like, let me try some things out. And if it gets over, it gets over. If it doesn't, we can go back to being this dude. But instead, what ended up happening is a couple of the kids in the crowd were like very excited, like they were laughing, they were like joking with me too, and I was like, all right, I think we're on to something. So I told my trainer about it, and he was just like, all right, well, like, cut me a promo how you would do it. And before, I would just be like, this is Red Dog. Then finally, I was just like, hi, yeah, it's the Air Force veteran intel specialist, and he was like, all right, stop. you're doing that from now on. So
It's like
it
a more flamboyant personality, like off the walls kind of thing. Like
yeah,
kind
because I
of
was
yeah,
like,
I get that.
yeah, I needed somebody who was like more me, just kind of crank to 100, and then just because the one thing about a lot of military dudes you could pull from is that we laugh at the most obscene shit, and that's just kind of like how we deal with like our, some of us deal with our trauma side of things. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pull that to the forefront and utilize that. And so there was like my big driving thing for my character. And since then, a lot of people have found me to be even more disturbing because I'll be laughing at shit that I shouldn't be laughing at.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we all have those. I don't know. I guess there's a term for it. I'm not sure, but you laugh at things that are not supposed to laugh. You're supposed to not laugh, but like laughing at a funeral. Bare Naked Ladies
Yeah.
sang a song where that was one of the parts of the thing. Yeah, I'm about as old as you, so like, yeah, we have the.
Yeah.
I don't look it though. I think I have like the Keanu Reeves gene where I always look like mid-20s. So like, I think
Yeah.
that's cool.
I was like, I suffer from Paul Rudd
Yeah,
syndrome, where like I
yeah.
just, for some reason, people will be like, yo, you're only like 24, 25. I was like, I have a 12-year-old. There's no way that I'm that young. And they're like,
Yeah, I get that kind of
what?
at conventions too. They'll sometimes be coming up to me and being like, "You want to hang out or do something like blah blah blah." I'm like 20 and I'm like, "Man, you could have been my child." Like right straight up. But I've also like never matured, so like I get along with younger people too.
Yeah.
Um because that's just how I am. Like at some point you just had to be like, I'm done, like being like more adult than this. I feel like the
Yeah.
people who get way more adult are the ones that are, you know, Karenish, caring about the little things and all that stuff, or like, or freaking out on the fast food employee. I'm just like, dude, nah, man, just like, laugh at a Reddit video of somebody getting punched in the nuts or something. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
do something. Watch an old Simpsons episode, then that laugh. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no shit. I'm the guy that's like at like a Walmart, and like I'll have a bunch of stuff in my cart, and I know half the stuff is like just it's food, right? But I know that I shouldn't be having it, and my daughter will be with me, and I was like, I need an adult. And she's like, you're the adult. It's like, I need an adult who does more adulting. Because I was
it's
like,
like that Dragon Ball abridged episode. Like, I need an adult. I am an adult. Like,
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
no, that's funny. There's like quotes that get stuck in your brain. I'm that
Yes.
generation where it's all
I,
references to cartoons.
always, because that's the best. That's the best. Like I'm either referencing like and that's the thing that I love about like especially with like Red Dog when I build up that world of like where Red Dog lives is that he quotes outdated shit. Like he just for some reason like I remember doing a promo one time and I pulled right from Milli Vanilli, and I just thought it was so funny to be like just keep saying I'm gonna blame things on the rain and just keep it going back to saying on the
That's
rain.
funny. That's funny. It's kind of funny because as much as I am a like doing voice acting and other stuff coming up, like I'm doing live action stuff too, but um I still kind of fanboy at the people I meet at conventions. They'll be like, "This is your booth, guy sitting next to you, and you're gonna sign stuff," and I'm just like, "Oh my god, I'm next to him. He's so awesome," like. But I'm right beside him. I've done panels with people where I didn't even say stuff because I was like, like, "Oh my god, he's right there," like. And I like, for instance, there's a convention coming up, and uh, one of the guests, and I'm one of the main guests, and the other the main guest is Carlos Alazarki or something. I forgot how to pronounce his last name or butchered that, but he plays the voice of Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life, and that was a huge cartoon to me. That was my favorite cartoon in Nickelodeon at the time, and I'm just like, oh my god, I get to like spend like right next to him. That's awesome, and he was like the voice of the original Spyro the Dragon, so I'm freaking out like internally, but I have to like act like, oh yeah, this is nothing for me. I do this every weekend, like I can't, what I'm saying? Like I'm still gonna fanboy over
Yeah.
the guy. I'm gonna be like, you're so awesome. You know, like I don't want to be that way, but you know, I'll be like,
Oh no.
sorry, my
No,
bad.
it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I figured you probably got a phone call like in the middle of
Yeah,
that.
they always call when you don't want them to. But no, yeah. Going back to that, yeah, it's one of those things where I freak out because I grew up with these people and they really actually like left an impression on me. You know, it's like when I spent a weekend with Billy West, I was just in awe the whole time. It was like shock. You know.
You know, it's funny because like, and especially because one thing like everybody talks about is that like there's been like this hot debate now, like the wrestling community, right? And wrestling Twitter, which I like to think of like one of the most toxic places that you have to be. But
Isn't that just
and
Twitter though? Like that's just Twitter.
yeah. But it's one thing because like people were talking about like when you meet a wrestler, like are you supposed to take pictures with them? Do you talk to them? Do you play it cool and calm? Like what do you do? And I was like, yo, life is short, man. Like I am taking pictures with everybody and anybody that I can. And in fact, uh, because and there's some wrestlers where I just sit back and I just act like try to be totally chill. In like Baltimore, we have this thing called the Baltimore Celeb Fest, right? Where
Mhm.
a bunch of big name wrestlers will come through, and then people will go through and sign autographs and stuff like that. And I make it a point just to walk up and just like have like a quick conversation with people because I'm like, this, I'm never gonna get this opportunity again to do it. So I was like, might as well, and what we the term that we use, mark, right? And I'm like, might as well just walk over there and mark out because like I'm a student of the game. I love listening to certain people talk and the way they carry their mannerisms, and I'm gonna go up there and talk to them and tell them I appreciate it. And so as much as inside of me, I'm like my heart's beating like a million miles an hour, and I was walking like, hi.
Well, you
Just
know,
go
that's
and
the thing
talk.
is like coming from somebody who is a creative person, like from my side, like people come up to me and they know who I voiced and I think a couple of conventions coming up are actually highlighting the Skeletor thing. So, um I mean, that's fine. I don't care. But if people like coming from my side, I'm like, I love that I made an impact on somebody's life. I would love if they came up to me. Some people I've met in the industry don't like that. And like my opinion is just like, well, then why'd you get into this profession? Because it's like one of the most exposed professions there is, voice acting, acting, wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, if you're on screen doing a performance or on a stage or anywhere, you're doing a performance for people, right? So if they come up to you, I every time they come up to me, I'm completely like, it makes my day. So it makes both people's day doing, you know, for me and somebody else who's a fan. But you know, people who don't like that, I'm just like, well, I don't understand why they got into that if they didn't want that, because it just kind of comes with the territory. But you know, I again, I'm a different person than those people. So I'm one of those people who are a big people person. As long as you're not creepy about it, it's fine. Like, I got pictures of you in the basement in my shower. You know, like that's like, I can't, you know, like that would be a little bit much. But like, just be cool about it. Be like, hey, I'm a huge fan or something like that. You know, and I've had all manner of people come up to me, and I'm just really happy that they got some kind of joy out of it.
You know, it's funny because like in the wrestling too, like when we're in like the locker room and stuff and like planning stuff out, putting stuff together, like figuring it all out. Like sometimes you get those big name wrestlers in there and like we go and we have and I may go up and walk up and shake somebody's hand, tell them, hey, I'm glad to meet you and blah 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 and go from there, right? And
Mhm.
it was something I learned actually from Rob Paulson, right? He had said it. He was talking about how he was working on I think it was G.I. Joe and he ran into Mel and he was like, "Hey, uh, I just want you to know that you're a big inspiration in my life, and if it wouldn't be too much trouble." And without hesitation, Mel like pulled down his glasses and he's like, "What's up, Doc?" And he said like that just made like his whole life because like this was the guy that he looked up to. So just like you were talking about, and I think about like how you want to keep it professional, but at the same time, like you just want to make sure that that person you got to say your piece to that person before like something happens to them, or if something happens to them, God forbid. But you're always like, yeah, and it's one of those things where we talk about it in the business, like just kind of marking out and telling people, like, going around talking, taking pictures with people. And it's one of those things where I look back at it now, I'm like, you know what? Like, if Rob's gonna do something like that, I'm doing something like that too. I don't care if I get kicked out of this locker room or not anymore.
I remember Billy West kind of had a story about that. He said that he had an interesting experience with Mel, saying that Mel almost like kicked him out of the line because he thought Billy was trying to cut in line, and he was like, oh, you get back in line, and because he thought something else was happening. But it was kind of a weird experience. Like one of the characters I grew up with watching the cartoon Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. There's a voice actor named George Lowe, and he was right next to me. And because some of my characters are so loud, people would ask me to do some of the characters. Now, I oblige all the time as long as my voice can handle it. And it called for me to yell, and I yelled a couple of times, and then he looked at me, and he was just like, hey. And I was like, oh, my God, he's talking to me. And then I was like, yes, Mr. Lowe, George Lowe. And then he's like, you keep doing that voice. Keep scaring me. You do it again, I'm going to throw a shoe at you. And I'm like, did Space Ghost just threaten to throw a shoe at me? And then eventually we talked over dinner and everything like that, and became a friend of mine. But I thought that was really funny, that you have these very unique experiences meeting people that you grew up with, and we're working on a project right now where he's involved with it, and I'm one of the characters too. And it was just one of those weird happenstance meetings where you just meet them. But I always say take the shot, because like I'm going to tell somebody that they had a positive effect on my life. Like whatever they did, they had a positive effect on my life. And for what it's worth, they can take it how they want it. I just would like to let them know, like when I first met Charles Martinet, who is the voice of Mario, I was like, that I grew up with that game. That's like a huge thing for me. And he was the kindest, nicest person in the world about it. He was this and this and this. And I remember he was just like, yeah, you as an actor, somebody who's portraying a character, because I was like, you're so nice, like you're so kind to everybody. Like, how do you do that? You're like one of the most recognized characters in the whole entire world. And he was just like, like, this is his philosophy. You as a actor, as a portrayer of the character, have no right to change that opinion of that character. So you have to be nice and respectful to everyone. Be nice to everybody, because if you are mean to that person, I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said, but if you're mean to that person, it might ruin the image of the character, and you have no right to do that, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, well, that really stuck with me after many, many years. I was like, I mean, I would always do that, but I never considered it in like format like that.
No, I like that, because it's one of those things where it's like, like even for like my character, and we talk about with faces and heels, right? Like with on the heels being a bad guy, faces being a good guys, right? So with the faces side of things, like we're always talking to people about like, hey, get out in front of the crowd, talk to them, get genuine connections with that person, because like that's what you want. And like as far as like when you want to be the bad guy or something, right? Like obviously you're kind of doing like the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing, right? You're not supposed to be liked, and it's one of those things where it's like when you're being the hero of somebody's story, like that is that one interaction that you have with somebody that you're just a complete jerk about, and then like that's it. Like you're kind of written off. You might as well just like one, go ahead and be a bad guy, but then two, like you, just because you were having a bad day, this one person is probably having like the best moment of their life, walking up to you and talking to you, and you decided to be a dick and ruin it. Like it's one of those things where I look back, I'm like, it's crazy.
That's one of those things where it's like, you don't know what that character might have done to help somebody over something. You don't know what that person went through in life to get over it. It might have been your character, and you could just destroy that in an instant just because you're being somebody who's like not considered at that point. And I also feel like it's like a little bit different with wrestlers, from what I've learned, it seems like when you're a character, you almost always have to be on. Like you almost always have to be that character almost all the time when you run into a fan, because you can run into fans anywhere. Like when you're an actor, you're off the camera. When you're a wrestler, it's kind of like this dual bipolar personality where you have to be that character all the time. And like when you're private and home, you're like, okay, I'm this guy, I'm Dave. But like when I'm out and about, you never know when I have to be like, like whatever the name is, the skull face man or something. Like you never know when you have to be that character. And that can be very confusing, I think. But luckily most of the wrestlers I've met are pretty cool about it. Like most of them are like, I think the fan base has learned, like, yeah, when they're off stage and they're behind the table signing autographs, yeah, they'll do a quip or a joke or something. But little kids don't know that. Little kids don't know that sometimes you're not that character. So I think, especially for little kids, you have to keep it up. But it is kind of a weird duality.
Yeah, and then because like I know like for me like I like to do like this for instance Shrek, right? Shrek is like a perfect example of like a kids movie that has like a lot of adult humor in it that kids don't pick up the first time around. When they get older and watch that movie back, they're like, oh, this is messed up. Like lots of
Yeah,
it.
a lot of
Like
90s Nickelodeon cartoons.
yes, like for instance, maybe in a movie, the mama bear gets taken away, and then baby bear is crying, and later you find out that mama bear is, a rug in someone's bedroom. Like, I think about these like random ass moments, but you have a perfect example. Like you talk about with like wrestlers, like we have to pull like sometimes we could pull back the curtain a little bit and be like, hey yo, like, I'm trying to keep you down, chill, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And the kids come in and you got to like turn a whole different face. And you can't, you don't want to ruin the illusion of something for a kid. So if you're like a bad guy, like you're going to be the bad guy. There's a perfect example of a dude. His name's Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. And people are going to talk about this moment, because he's currently one of the champions for AEW. And, he like threw water on this kid in the middle of his match, and the mom wanted to fight him live on TV. And he made no apology about it, and he just wanted people to know he is just that dude all the time. And during signings and conventions, he's that same way. Like he's just that character turned on. And then like you said, right when the camera comes off, like he's just, hey, this is me. I'm just very low key, not very high energy. I'm not trying to be that guy. But the moment someone puts a camera in his face, like it just turns on, and he just becomes this big jerk all over again. And it's interesting to see, like, because like for me, I being like a face, like I have to remember like when I'm in wrestling, like always energy, high positive. Oh, you didn't win today. I know, right? Like I wouldn't have made this one mistake. Things could have been different, but
What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is to kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love, because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.